Welcome to Literacy Mindset, where education leaders from across the country share strategies for improving K-12 instruction today and preparing for the challenges of tomorrow. The stakes are high. Students are facing new academic demands, and educators are navigating an ever-changing educational landscape. Each episode, we explore the most effective literacy initiatives, innovative tools, and strategies that are reshaping education. Whether you're an educator looking to improve student outcomes or passionate about driving meaningful change in schools, the Literacy Mindset brings you the insights and strategies you need to stay ahead. This is where education leadership meets real-world impact.
All right. Really excited for another episode today of Literacy Mindset. My guest today, I'm really excited to have Jeff Alley on from Logan City School District in Logan, Utah. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going. I'm really excited to have some conversation that's maybe a little bit more technologically slanted today, given your role. Why don't you tell everybody what it is that you do up in Logan?
Yeah, so I'm the instructional technology coach. And basically, this job formed because COVID happened. And so I left teaching to take on this role to help our district use all the things that we were ill prepared to use during COVID. So things like Zoom and Canvas and just remote learning. And so that's kind of transformed over the last couple of years. And now basically any product we have that's technology based, it's my role to go into the classrooms or send out messages or make how-to guides on how to use it effectively in the classroom, teachers with their students.
Okay, excellent. That sounds it sounds like an interesting role. We're gonna dive in and talk about what that means and all of the joy that comes with it, I'm sure. Tell us a little bit about Logan City, the district, and kind of the makeup, size. What are you handling? How many buildings do you have? That kind of thing.
Okay, so Logan's kind of unique. Logan City School District is kind of the donut hole in Cache Valley. So we have Cache School District around it, which is growing like crazy, and we're kind of the city in the middle that's, we have 8 schools, we have about 5,000 kids. Our high school, so we have a high school, middle school, and 6 elementaries.
Okay.
And I think our high school is up to 36 languages right now, which is crazy, right? And then I'm sure there's other school districts listening that are like, oh, we have like 90. But, for what we think is Logan as a small town, having 30 plus is huge. But I think all 8 of our schools are Title I. Okay. And so which is great. We get that extra money to support. But we are a very diverse school, and yeah, I think we're right at about 5,000 students. That sounds accurate.
Okay, excellent. Small town, but a city named school district, Logan City School District, in a small town, not Logan Town School District. Okay. Oftentimes we start out talking a little bit about what literacy initiatives look like. We're going to take a little bit of a technology lens on that, and I'd love for you to kind of talk about some of the technology initiatives that are going on in Logan, and then we'll kind of tie them to curriculum and literacy and maybe how you work with that. So just tell us a little bit about what's going on the technology front.
Yeah, so we, like every school district, we have a lot of things that we're using. Something that's kind of unique to us is we have a product called Vivi, and this is kind of our classroom way of presenting lessons and interacting with students. So basically Vivi is kind of like an Apple TV, but any device can connect to it. And what's great about it is, the teacher, and I love watching this. I love watching our math teachers at the high school. They connect to the board or the TV, and they have an iPad, and they walk around the classroom, with some sort of PDF viewer and their assignment. And so they're teaching from the back of the room or the side of their room as all of their students are, kind of looking up at the board. And it's just amazing the difference between, the teacher up at the front of the screen or at the front of the classroom, writing something on the board back to the students. You and I were both students. The second that back turns towards us, we're talking to our buddies, we're getting on our phones. So that's kind of how our classrooms look. We have this Vivi in every single classroom, and we're really trying to get our teachers teaching untethered from the front of the room, and it's great to see.
So
I'm trying to think
you've
of
basically broken up the sage on the stage mantra. You're trying to take the stage off of the front of the room and moved it
right.
all around the room, still saging and being able to lecture or give instruction, but literally just by placing the teacher in different parts of the room, you're creating a completely different environment.
Exactly. And it's amazing because the teacher can easily just kind of push pause, talk to a student really quietly for a second, kind of get back to what they're doing. And it really enhances that. We always talk about what are the big things we need to do in the classroom. And with management, one of the easiest things with management is proximity. So you go and stand by the student, and that student, kind of gets back to whatever they were doing. And then the Vivi kind of allows us to do that.
Okay, that's awesome. How does that affect how you make curriculum decisions? Obviously, you can't do that if you have just a textbook, right? It has to somehow make its way digitally onto that. Or I guess you could say like, no, we're good. We can scan it if we need to and make a PDF version of it. Talk about
Right.
how that maybe influences curriculum decisions.
Right. A lot of our teachers will, for example, math in the elementary schools, we use Go Math, and it's easy for the teacher to get on, download the student guidebook, and then throw that up onto the screen. And what's nice about it is, you're going through it and you can kind of use two fingers, zoom in on one problem. So that one problem's taking up the whole TV.
Right.
And then the teachers, kind of going through it. When they're done, they zoom out, move on to another section. But we have a lot of teachers using that, PDFs that they bring in, but probably primarily some sort of slide deck. So a lot of our teachers are using Google Slides or Nearpod. Nearpod's a popular one in Utah, and that's kind of how they're giving their content to the students.
Okay, excellent. Um, okay, let's talk a little bit about your role and how you partner with purchasing decision makers around curriculum, right? So you just described methods or frameworks or tools that allow for curriculum to be used, but Nearpod itself is not like necessarily giving you curriculum. Google Slides doesn't give you curriculum, right? There's stuff that has to be put into that. So as you work with your intervention team, special education team, curriculum team, what does that look like? How do you guys sit together on a regular cadence and talk about things? Do they consult you? Do they inform you after the fact? Like how does it work to make decisions with such a technology focused guidance in the classrooms?
Yeah, and this is hard because I think every one of us wants to claim that we're like the expert or the master at what we do. And really, I think at times we're all just winging it the best we can. And, in the district, I don't have a ton of experience seeing how it always works out. But you have a department like special ed, and, that we are the experts of special ed, and we know exactly what these kids need. And they sometimes buy things, unfortunately, without the feedback of someone else. Now, we have good teams here, and I think that a lot of the time we do work well together.
Sure.
But on the tech side, sometimes we're the last to know. And so we might have a group of teachers and admins and parents, and a decision's made, and it goes to the board, and it goes through all the right channels. But somehow,
And then you get informed.
sometimes, and then we get informed. And sometimes the tech side, all of a sudden we get a ticket or an email saying, hey, can you come help the teacher with some product we've never
Don't
heard
know
of?
how
So
to
I
help.
say, hey, I get on our Slack channel. Does anyone know what this is? Oh, I think I heard about this at a meeting a year, and sometimes I wish we were a little bit more involved with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's maybe an interesting segue to just deployment of technology, right? how how does it work in Logan? What are some of the challenges that you can speak to eloquently enough, whether or not we know how we got to be able to talk about them so clearly,
Yeah.
that maybe other districts could learn from as you talk about challenges in rolling out technology. Maybe communication is just one of those challenges, but maybe
Right.
walk us through what deployment looks like and how it can be a challenge, or maybe some things you've done to make it less of a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, the challenges, I mean, we all have these challenges in school districts, and that's, we have this diverse group of people, and it's like a classroom, it's so hard to teach because you get to your classroom, you have 30 kids ranging from first grade reading level to college reading level. Religions are different, cultures are different, parenting is different. And then you're expected to teach all of them, right? You're expected to effectively teach every one of them and help them all grow. And that's kind of how I look at working with teachers. And, you have a brand new teacher that's just excited to try anything, or a brand new teacher who's completely overwhelmed. You have the veteran teacher who loves their job, but they don't want to make any changes. I mean, it's hard to communicate things at this big of a level.
Okay.
I have everyone's email. I know everybody, but sometimes getting that information into them is really difficult. Um, so I'm just, specific challenges. I mean, you're taking these teachers who, even the best of the teachers who love their jobs, they're still coming to school with, I'll take an elementary teacher, for example. One of my really good friends that teaches fourth grade,
Okay.
she's an excellent teacher, but she still has to come and she has to manage the class, which is hard. And she
Right.
has to, before class even starts, she's getting her kids to school. She's making sure, the crock pot's going. She gets to school and she's in charge of 6 or 7 different subjects while she's managing kids. And even when the kids are being good, there's still such a variety. And then all of a sudden you come along and you say, we need you to do this new product. So you've been teaching 20 years. We're getting rid of this. We're doing this. We're putting that in. And that's a really hard thing to do. And so I think the best thing that we do with implementing technology, I mean, and I'm not doing this in sequential order by any
Sure, sure,
means,
sure.
but I think one thing that you have to do is start out with something very low stakes. And I'll give an example. So we have a new product called School AI. And
Okay.
throughout this podcast, I might talk about that quite a bit because I love it.
Okay.
But all I wanted to do was get teachers using it, and not even using it in their classrooms or creating content on it, but just trying it out.
Okay.
So with School AI, what you do is you make this, it's called a space. And in that space, you can kind of think of the space as like a room that you create, and you have to let the students in. And so in that room or in that AI space, you can say, these are the rules. This is our focus. You as an AI are this personality, and this is what we're trying to do. And then when the students get access to that through a code or a QR code,
Okay.
they interact with this AI space that helps them stay on track, or, if they're being inappropriate, it lets the teacher know. It's very controlled, and it's amazing. But I wanted every teacher to try this. So at the beginning of this year, I created this space that was centered on me. And it was just a goofy way of saying, you're going to interact with, an AI version of Jeff Alley, and he's going to ask you a couple questions. And whatever school participates the most in this will get treats or something. I gave a carrot out there. And it was great. And all it was they clicked on the one button. So they opened up their email, and it said, just click on this button and you're in. So they clicked on it, they put their name, and then all of a sudden they're interacting with this AI, which was me. And I was asking them, like, what is the best restaurant in Logan? And then, when I programmed the AI space, I said, look, this is the right answer. But if they say this one or this one, it's Tandoori Oven, by the way. It's this little gas station Indian place up by campus. But if they say these two, you can say, like, hey, nice, that's close, and those are good answers. And if they say this one, you have to, like, call them out and, no, that's like the worst, type of thing.
Right.
And it was just fun. And all of a sudden I have 190 teachers doing it. And just like that, I was able to low stakes. They tried it out. It took almost no time. It was fun. but every single one of those teachers was able to see, oh, this is what this looks like. This is really kind of cool that the AI responded to my answers and had these rules programmed. And anyway, so I feel like I'm going way too far into this, but that low stakes is a great introduction. I think something else that's important that sometimes we're really bad at is it's also okay to listen first. I think teachers want to be heard. I think they want to complain a little bit. They want to vent when something hard comes their way. And I think it's okay to listen to that and acknowledge it and say, you know, I understand that trying new things, you know, especially for these teachers that started teaching before the internet was out, right? Like teaching teachers that, you know, grew up with smartphones is very different than teaching teachers who didn't even have internet until their fifth year of teaching, right? But you can listen to them and you can say, look, I understand those concerns, and, you know, show the support and say, I'm here to help you every step of the way. But then you really show them, and I think this is the biggest key. So, you know, the low stakes is great, listening is great, but I think the most important thing you can do is show them the benefit of it. And, you know, I rarely talk to teachers that feel like they just have all the free time in the world. You know, like most of our teachers would want their Saturdays back or their, you know, their evenings back, because they're always taking these crates home and grading papers and doing all these things. Right. And then, you know, so if you can come along and say, look, I have Sal Khan is one that does this. So Sal Khan, who did Khan Academy, he came out with research saying that if you effectively use AI, you could save 10 hours a week. And I thought that was a crazy number. But then I started thinking of all the little things, and I'm like, I'm starting to save about 10 hours a week because of how AI helps me. So if I can go to a teacher and say, look, when I taught and we did read alouds, for example, and I would try to come up with my own questions, and I would, you know, all right, I'm going to read chapter 1 today to the kids, but I want questions involved. It would take me 20, 30 minutes to come up with 3 or 4 questions, because I'm going through the chapter and I'm trying to create good questions. And now I can go to AI and say, we just finished chapter 1 of Harry Potter. Can you write me 3 questions, depth of knowledge level 3 or 4, and just like that, it's done. So if I can show them, look, this saves you time. It's probably a little bit more intelligent than us, right? Like the questions are better worded, they sound better, you can make it more fun. Then all of a sudden they start buying into it because they feel supported by me or another coworker. They get the low stakes, so they kind of see how easy it is to log in. And then all of a sudden I'm saying, look, this is going to save you time, energy. This is going to make your lessons more engaging. Then they have the carrot. And then at that point, if they're not going to do it, then they need to leave or retire. You know, like if that doesn't help them get the technology in their classroom, I don't know what would.
Got it. Okay. Well, now let's stay on the AI topic for a second then. You talked about it a little bit through the lens of a teacher, and obviously we see lots of applications that can save time. What about for students? How do you guys approach it with students? Obviously, it's somewhat controversial out in the country, defining on whether or not there's a cheating element that can come into play. Or so, how do you guys approach it? What do you do? What do you put guardrails or frameworks in place?
Right, and you're really opening up a can of worms here. So this might be the last question you ask. You know, the AI thing is so powerful. And in fact, I have a meeting after this podcast where I'm meeting with the admins at our high school, because we're trying to come up with policy and guidelines for this, because we want them using it. We know that AI is going to change how these kids have careers. And these seniors are going to go into a world similar to you and I are in right now. But these 4th and 5th graders, by the time they graduate, who knows what this is going to be like, right? So I'm really trying to push this idea that, look, obviously we want to be safe with this, but I would much rather have students using this in the classroom than not using it. And we have a lot of teachers that are really wanting to go backwards and say, I don't trust this. I want to go back to paper, pencil. I want to do, you know, just interviews, which is fine. Like if you want to do an assessment where you just talk to a student, that's a great way to get their content. But at the same time, you will have no time the rest of your life if you're interviewing every single student, right? And so I love this idea of, you teaching AI effectively, actually teaching how do we use this appropriately, and how do we get our kids using this, or how do we model in front of them how to use it appropriately. And
Right.
so I think there's research out there that says, if you are a competent teacher with AI, the students are less likely to abuse it, right? And that's what we're worried about. We don't want our students just straight up cheating.
Sure.
But at the same time, we want them using it. So one of the things we're trying to do is every classroom, every assignment, just show when it's okay to use. Have some sort of, a red, yellow, green. Red, you are not allowed to use AI, and discuss why. Maybe you say, because we're trying to work this part of your brain or create these type of connections in your brain. Yellow might be, if you need help with AI, you can get it. And green might be, you need to use AI because we're brainstorming, we're doing this, and you will be more effective if you use AI, right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so those are things we're trying to push, but again, like I said, this is still new, and so we still have teachers that are worried about it. And AI is not perfect, right? We still have these AI hallucinations that make it seem perfect. But again, if we're teaching our students to look out for this stuff, it's just like digital citizenship. If you teach students, look, if you get this email
on
that
the internet.
Right. If something seems too good to be true, or you're getting an email that doesn't make sense, or it has bad, like you give them the red flags of a scam, they're more likely to catch the scam. And I think the AI is the same. If we teach them how to appropriately use it, then all of a sudden they're preparing themselves for a future career. And I'm sitting here, I'm not fighting with the teachers, but teachers have their valid points. But my wife's a dietitian that works remote, and she uses it all the time. She takes her knowledge and everything she believes in her personality, and she works with the AI, and she comes up with something better because of it, right? So specifically with the students, and maybe I'm jumping gun here, but this is my favorite aspect of technology in the classroom right now, is this idea that students have a connection to AI. And obviously, we're not just giving them ChatGPT and saying, do whatever you want with it. But with the school AI space, it can be amazing, because when you're creating a space, you can say, the first question I want you to ask the student is, what language do they prefer to go in? And so maybe you're a social studies teacher at Logan High. You have 36 languages that might come through. You've just created an AI space that says, I want you first to ask what language they want to proceed in. And when they say French or Chinese or Spanish, from there on out, you're doing that. And so that they're getting the same content every single kid in my classroom is, at a different level than they've ever had before. Again, it's not perfect, but 3 or 4 years ago, it was like, we just throw the kids in an ESL class, or we try our best to say, we slow down how we talk, and we show them images, their strategies. But now they're getting on a space that's in their language that they understand. So anyways, I don't even know where I'm going with this. So I'm going to let you ask another question, because I'm just going to kind of,
No.
I'm all over.
I think it's great, because trying to understand how we can best help students leverage the tools and technologies, and AI clearly is one of them. I do think it's always interesting when we say AI, sometimes people mean just ChatGPT, and you've clearly described, scenarios in which it's beyond that, and we need to look beyond that. But many times it is, are we going to block OpenAI or not? Like that's the crux of it. Maybe let's go device-wise for a second. Think about your high school, your middle school. What do you guys do, and how do you manage device distractions? Are phones allowed in class? How do you just talk a little bit about that side of it?
It's interesting, because our governor in Utah is making a big push for no phones.
Okay.
And that's a really hot topic, because you have one district saying, hey, we don't have money for devices. So if they bring their phones in, they, bring your own device. That's great. Or, we have a lot of parent pushback that just feel like they want to be able to reach their kid at any time. And I get both sides.
Sure.
So right now, you're not going to see a lot of phone use in the classroom, but we do provide, we're basically one-to-one across the district. maybe outside of, some kindergarten iPad classes, and how or Chromebooks are given out, we're basically one-to-one. And so it's amazing because these high school kids, not only do they get a laptop that they can, use during class or take home for work, but if they come back and they say, my laptop's dead, we have a student IT office that has a bunch of loaners, and it's like, okay, you can use this loaner until the end of the day, just bring it back.
Right.
So it's a great way to put technology into their hands. But we do have our filters that the students are on are pretty strict.
Sure.
Obviously anything sexual or violence, all that stuff is blocked. We have most of the AIs blocked just because, I think most of these products say, 13 and up or 18 and up or parental guidance or whatever. So we just block it outright. And then we allow a bunch of stuff that we use. But we also use something called GoGuardian, which this is one of my favorite products we've ever had. And basically what happens is GoGuardian is synced with our SIS. So all the classrooms are figured out. All the students, if they leave this class and join this class, it just automatically does it. But the second a class starts, a teacher can just go to GoGuardian, hit start on their class, and all the student laptops pop up on their screen. So they can monitor it, but even a further step, they can set up what is called scenes. And so maybe the teacher creates a scene that says, look, this site's allowed, nothing else is allowed, because these are the only sites that my students are using. So students come in, they start their class, start their scene, and now all of a sudden they have access to every single laptop. They can see what kids are doing. It's recording everything kids are doing, so they have a timeline if there's any issues. But we kind of put that in along with, just good teaching practices. So we say, look, you have these tools, we have these filters set up, you have GoGuardian that you can manage with. But we also expect you just to do those good, walk around the classroom and talk to students if they're misbehaving, you know what I mean? But those are some things we're doing with kind of managing what students are doing.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that even on our side, obviously most of our software is on the curriculum side and making sure that kids have instructional opportunities on a screen. I feel our responsibility to help limit distractions and help do that. So I do think that the community at large has to have conversations about this. I love tools like GoGuardian that allow that and being able to kind of use technologies that are standard enough that we can be managed under those same guidelines, because when you want someone working on Mindplay, you want them working on Mindplay, not in another tab doing something else, worrying about that. So that's great to hear. So what do you tell a district that says, all right, we're finally getting on board, Jeff. We're going to do technology in a bigger way. We've been holding on. We've been really wanting to be paper pencil, but we're finally there, right? We know it's 2025, and we've heard loud and clear we need to do this. What are a couple of things that you tell them to watch out for as they start to roll out broader technology implementations?
Oh man, that's hard. Because obviously there's some obvious answers of, you create a good plan and you get, buy-in from the admins, and then you sell it to the teachers, and then you put it to the parents. I mean, there's things you can do that makes sense, right? Plan trainings and make sure, there's sustainability or whatever. If I could talk to a district, I would seriously focus on 100% how intuitive the tool is. And we have so many tools, and some of them are not bad tools by any means. But we have a tool that a few of our teachers use, and now that they use it every day, it's fine. And it's a really powerful tool for these kids in math. They get done with their assignment, they jump onto this program. But I'm telling you, even if I opened it up right now, it would take me 45 minutes to figure out. And I'm the one who made the how-to on it, but it's just so much. And you click a button, and then there's 90 options, and there's only 3 different icons, so they all look the same. And it's just so confusing that almost none of our teachers have ever tried to figure it out. Where there's other products, and like we've talked about GoGuardian being one of them, it's literally one button to log in with Google and one button to start the class. When we started with GoGuardian, I even emailed a teacher and I said, I'm going to come to your classroom in 30 minutes. Or I was texting her as a friend. And I said, go to this website, log in with Google. That's all I'm going to tell you. By the time I got to her classroom, she was chatting with students. She had some of the students blocked on something. She had shut down one kid's laptop because he wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing. It took no thought because every bit of it made sense.
Yeah.
So I feel like my advice would be, look, if you have two products you're considering, one product might be a little cheaper or even a little bit more robust and stronger, but if it's not as user friendly as the other one, go to the other direction. Because I just feel like, again, 2025, it should be easy. The second you open it up, like we've been on the internet long enough that we know, oh, if you click on the little logo on the top left, it's going to take you home.
That's
Like there's just stuff that we have ingrained into us. And I just think that with teachers that have 5, 6, 7 subjects, or they teach 300 students the same subject, 6, 7 times a day or whatever, when you approach them with something, if it's not user friendly, the chance of them using it is very poor. So that's my kind of advice. Follow the intuitive route, stuff that's really been tested for users, and put that over things with all the bells and whistles.
Almost anything else, because that's what matters. Well, and I think that's an interesting way to try and predict the future. Is you just said something that I feel like I tell my team sometimes, and that is I don't do a good job of predicting the future. But one thing I can tell with a high degree of certainty is that in 5 years or 10 years from now, teachers are not going to say, "Can you please make this harder?" Like like very, very consistently, I know in the future they are going to continue to want it to be easier to use, right? And so that's great. But although we could talk about things for a long time, I've loved you sort of guiding us through what the technology map looks like a little bit in Logan, and I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I'm going to ask you one final question on that, because I do like thinking about the future, and I did already steal one version of it that you could have gone from you. But what do you see 5, 10 years from now? You are heavy in technology, so it's probably got some technological slant to it. But what do you see as the future of the classroom in 5 or 10 years that might be interesting for people to kind of think through the lens of Jeff Alley?
Have you ever read Ready Player One? Maybe that's how it looks, and everything's virtual, and you log in and you can create your own avatar or whatever. It's hard because I go to these conferences and you have these people that they're kind of the forward thinkers, and some of them are like, I don't know how to word this effectively, but they're good enough that they keep a short leash, so they're kind of thinking out there, but it's not too crazy. But then you have these other ones that are thinking like 4 rooms down the hallway, and it's so bizarre that you can't even comprehend it. I do think this AI, like we talk about AI all the time, especially this generative AI that's come out, that's really kind of shaken everyone over the last couple of years. And with that, we have, text to images and text to video now, and it's crazy how fast it's improving. And so I go to these conferences and they say, look, AI right now is at Pong level. We're like 1985 Pong AI right now, and it's only going to get better and faster and smarter. And so I want to say, I think the room's going to be drastically different.
Okay.
But in the same thought, I'm thinking our classrooms with the desks the way they are, it still looks like it's from 1890, right? But when we start, if like I said with AI earlier, if we have a product that can understand the kid, from what the kid is. So you have a kid move in from Africa, and you have an AI space that knows the language, knows the culture, knows the metaphors of that culture, knows how the people act and dress. I mean, this could really change how kids learn to read, because they're not just sitting in class being forced to kind of try to fit in with the regular classroom kids. They're in a space, and I've kind of focused on the language and culture side of it, but even in the engagement side of it, like if I'm learning as a kid, I have a different interest in different topics than the other 29 kids.
Sure.
And if AI can get to a point where it's effectively teaching and asking questions and talking, but also kind of prodding the hormones in our brains to get those kids excited, I think this could be amazing. And on the same part, sorry, I'm kind of rambling in different directions, but what do we want as teachers? We want easy products that are effective. We have a lot of products in the district or, around the United States that are easy to log into, and they're amazing products. Like my little 2-year-old gets on the iPad and he's learning his colors and talking as he's playing games and touching things. And so if we have something that's easy to roll out in the classroom, that's as powerful as AI can be, I just see education drastically changing. And instead of doing these crazy reading curriculums that are really complicated and hard, we're instead using these really engaging, fun, personalized, ones that are accessible to students. Anyway, so nothing crazy on my part.
That's a pretty hopeful future. I love thinking about it, and obviously, whether it's our own children or the children that we work with in schools, we think a lot about what the future entails, and I think it's bright. I think there's a lot of exciting things to come. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day today to join us on the literacy mindset. We talked a little bit about the technology mindset in schools today, and I love that. I love that distinction, and I think it's exciting for listeners to be able to hear what's going on. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to kind of get my mind thinking about what we need to do next, and preparing for this or just talking to you. It's like, man, I need to sit back down and really think about what this future is going to look like. So I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found today's conversation insightful, be sure to subscribe to Literacy Mindset. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube for updates, resources, and to join the conversation. Have a topic you'd like us to explore? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time.